Good morning, second graders. It is time for math, and we are going to correct the homework that you did last night. It is page 229, and you were supposed to finish the clocks on your own. So I have corrected it up here, and if you want to pause the video for just a minute, you can check your clocks and make sure that you got them all right. One of them that might have been a little bit tricky would be 3:55. And the reason why that one would have been tricky is because it's almost 4 o'clock. So make sure that your hour hand is pointing almost to the 4, and then your minute hand is up here on the 11 for 55. So go ahead and pause this, check it with your paper, fix any of yours if you need to, and then let's move on to the back. All right, on the back of our paper, we have finished circling the time of day that things might be happening. Some of them were really easy. We know that if it said afternoon, it was going to be PM. Going to the playground, I don't think you would probably go at 9:30 at night, so that would be a morning, an AM. Lunch, that might have been a little tricky. Remember that 12:10 a.m., that's like midnight, okay? We would not be eating lunch at midnight, so it is 12:10 p.m. Sunset, that was pretty easy, 7:05 p.m. Wake up in the morning, a.m. Math class. Now that you do math class online, you might be doing it at 8:30 at night, but if we were doing it in school, it would definitely be in the morning. Okay, the next page in your math book is page 231, and it is the letter for your family. This is your mom and dad's assignment. They need to read this letter. This week, we're going to start today on Friday and finish it up next week. We're going to be learning how to read and make graphs, picture graphs and bar graphs. And the difference between a picture graph and a bar graph is that a picture graph, you use pictures for it, okay? And a bar graph, you color in the squares to make bars. And sometimes they'll go across and sometimes they'll go up and down. And we've done lots of these bar graphs in school. So that should be pretty easy for you. Make sure mom and dad read this paper, and then you can go on to the next page, which is 233. And we are going to make our first picture graph. Our vocabulary word is picture graph. And that just means that it is a graph using pictures. Graphing is one of my favorite chapters in math, so I hope that you have as much fun as I do with it. Use picture graphs to compare amounts. Read the picture graph, write the number, ring, and that means draw a circle around, ring the words more or fewer. So let's look at our graph. It talks about balloons, the number of balloons, and it tells us 3 children who have balloons: Carla, Peter, and Hannah. And what I like to do first when I see a picture graph is I like to simply count how many the person has and write it out here to the side. So will you get a pencil ready and let's count how many balloons Carla has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Carla has 7 balloons. Peter has 1, 2, 3, 4. And Hannah has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're ready to answer our questions. Carla has blank, more or fewer balloons than Peter. Well, first of all, let's look at Carla. She has 7 and Peter has 4. So does Carla have more or fewer? You are correct. Carla has more balloons than Peter, but we want to know how many more Carla has. And to do that, I like to draw lines, comparison lines like this. So I'm going to draw a line all the way down between the balloons because that's going to make it easier for me to count how many more or how many fewer balloons. And I'm going to keep going all the way down for the one that has the most. Okay, so now I can look at Carla right here and I can look at Peter and I can see how many empty boxes. 1, 2, 3. So that tells me that Carla, she has a balloon in each of those boxes. Peter does not. So Carla has 3 more balloons than Peter. Does that make sense? If you need to pause my video for a minute and look at that closer, you can. Now let's go on to Hannah. Hannah has blank, more or fewer balloons than Carla. I'm going to use a different color to compare Hannah. And here's Carla up here. She has 7. Hannah has 5. We're looking for Hannah. So is 5 more or fewer than 7? You're right. 5 is fewer. Fewer means the same as less. So we're going to circle the word fewer. Well, how many fewer balloons does Hannah have than Carla? We know that Carla filled up all these squares. How many empty squares does Hannah have? 2. So that means that Hannah has 2 fewer balloons than Carla, right? Did that make sense to you? If you need to pause the video and have mom or dad explain that a little bit better, you can. Let's go on down to our next picture graph. It says, read the picture graph, write the number. Leaves collected. Amari, Sam, Marco. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at Amari and count how many leaves he has. 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's count Sam's leaves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good job. All right. And let's count Marco's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well done. All right. Number 3 says Amari needs how many more leaves to have as many as Sam has? Well, there's a couple of different ways that we can do it. We can go ahead and draw our lines, which I'm going to do right now. Okay, I've drawn my lines and we can compare how many empty boxes Amari has compared to Sam, right? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we know that Amari would need 4 more leaves to have the same amount as Sam. But another way that we could do it is that we know that Sam has 8 leaves, right? And Amari only has 4. So 8 minus 4 is 4, which means Amari would need 4 more leaves. So you could do it either way. All right, let's look at number 4. If Sam gives away how many blank leaves, he will have as many leaves as Marco. So Marco has 6 leaves. Sam has 8 leaves. How many leaves would Sam have to give away to have the same amount as Marco? Well, we could do this, 8 minus how many equals 6, or we could just look at the empty boxes that Marco has. If Sam gave away this leaf and this leaf, then he would have the same amount as Marco, right? So how many leaves would he have to give away? 2 is correct. Okay, let's go on to the back. All right, we only have 5 minutes left for math time. I hope that we can get this finished because I do not want you to have homework on Friday. So let's see if we can get these graphs done. This picture graph shows the number of apples Mrs. Reed bought at the store. Here's the graph. She bought, let's count them, 1, 2, 3, 4 red apples, 1, 2 green apples, and 1, 2 yellow apples. Now let's see if we can answer our questions. Number 5, how many apples did Mrs. Reed buy altogether? How would we find out how many apples altogether? What do you think we would need to do? Go ahead and pause the video for a minute while you figure that out. Okay, are you back? There's a couple of different ways we could have figured it out. We could just count all the apples, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But what if the number was lots bigger? We would want to add those numbers together. So that's what I did. I took the 4 red apples plus 2 green apples, which equaled 6. Then I added the 2 yellow apples, and 6 plus 2 equals 8. Did you get that same number? Did you get 8 apples altogether? I'll bet you did because this is pretty easy for you guys. You are so good at math. All right, let's go down to question number 4. There are 2 green apples, 1 yellow apple, and 1 red apple in the bowl. The rest are in Mrs. Reed's bag. How many apples are in the bag? I think that I'm going to draw a picture to help me solve this. Will you pause the video for just a minute and draw a picture of your own and see if you can figure out how many are in Mrs. Reed's bag? Okay, are you ready to figure it out? Well, I drew a bowl and I put 2 green apples in the bowl. How many green apples did Mrs. Reed have? She only had 2, didn't she? So we're going to take both of those green apples off. That shows us that there are no green apples in the bag. All right, she has 1 yellow apple in the bowl. So let's take away one of the yellow apples. How many yellow apples does that leave in the bag? Yep, 1. Okay, and she has 1 red apple in the bowl, which means we're going to take off 1 red apple. How many red apples are left? 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's how many apples are in the bag. Let's count them all together. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many apples are in the bag? 4. 4 apples. Is that the answer that you got also? Wow, I really look like a kindergartner doing my writing, don't I? All right, let's go on down to our bottom, our last picture graph. It's going to talk about books that were read. And these are the children that read the books. Pablo, Janice, Helen, and Ray. I'm going to quickly count up how many books they read and write the answers to the side. Our time is almost up. I would like you to also write that down and answer the next 2 questions. Pause the video while you do that, and when you come back, I want you to check your answers. Okay, are you back to check? All right. Did you say Janice and Ray were the 2 children that had 6 books altogether? Yes. And how many books were about animals? What I did is I wrote a C on 2 books, which meant those 2 were about cars, and these 2 were about trains. And then I counted how many books were left, and I knew that's how many books were about animals. See you next time.